Hey guys, it's Randi from randypierce.com, and I'm back with Natalie Collins. She's going to help us dive into class number 2 of the Human Design System. We're going to talk about introversion and extroversion in today's class. Now, it's not really discussed in the Human Design System, like there's not a specific thing that addresses it, but Natalie has her expertise in today's call that will help us understand, where can you find that in your chart, and where can you recognize signs where it may be showing up for you, and then how to handle it. And then we'll dive into what does it mean for you as an entrepreneur if you really are an introvert, and if you have these aspects in your human design chart. So we're just going to open up the conversation. Natalie and I can talk a very long time when we're talking about cool stuff like this. So we're just going to open the conversation and see where it goes. And I just want to thank everyone for taking a look at our first class. Thank you so much for the feedback. It looks like Natalie and I are going to be doing a series of these classes on human design. I'm super excited. I know Natalie is too. But there's going to be a point in the very near future where you can send us questions, and we'll probably answer them either in a recorded class or open up maybe a live webinar. We'll see how it works out. Fun,
yeah.
Right? Okay. So I just want to open this conversation because I was speaking to a friend of mine recently. I am technically an introvert, but I think it's important for people to understand if you want to be an entrepreneur, you must have an extroverted business. That means there are times when you will have to be accessible and be able to connect with your audience in your marketing. Now, I can say, because I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, there are periods in my business, like in a calendar year, where the energy, I just have to feel into it. Do I feel like being introverted, or do I feel like being extroverted? And I adjust my marketing and my business model accordingly. So for those of you who may be sensitive or introverted, I just want to let you know that it's okay to be your true self. And you can be introverted and be a successful entrepreneur. But the bottom line is you've got to understand who you really are, which is one of the reasons why Natalie and I are doing this human design series. We want to help you understand your true nature so that you know what you need and how to set up your business in a way that works for you. And I didn't properly introduce Natalie in last class, but I'm going to do that right now. And then Natalie, just hop in here, tell us a little bit more about what you do. But ultimately, Natalie is what I consider a business energy consultant. She understands how to interpret and explain your true nature. And then she's an expert in helping you design a business that is authentically aligned to who you are, so that things don't feel so heavy and you don't drive yourself half mad. And the other reason that I have this series going with Natalie is because this is the work that we do when you work with me. Before we do anything else with your business, I get down to the core of who you are, because who you are has to be honored, or you're going to lose your mind, or you're going to, sap your body energy, or you're going to be super frustrated trying to get to success, working in all these dysfunctional ways. So Natalie and I both believe in the business must be aligned to who you are. So I'm excited to dive into today's conversation. And on that, Natalie, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do and your official title?
Well, my official title is actually business coach. So I love the business energy consultant. That's actually really, I haven't heard that term before. So yay. May try that out a little bit. So what I do with people is I help them build businesses around who they are so that their business supports them and it doesn't drain or kill them in the process, because there's so many different techniques and systems and all this stuff that may have worked for one person, and you may try all these different systems and they don't work for you. Well, in your human design, that may be the explanation as to why, because you're not designed that way. Or what if it does work for you? You may have a similar design to the person who created the original system. So there's these nuances of what is actually going to work for you and what won't work for you. And that's where I come in. And because I know so many of these systems, I love them, I study them, but I am a projector. Randi is a manifesting generator. The same systems that I've been taught by manifesting generators will work more for Randi, but work way differently for me. So that's where I had a lot of frustration coming into the online marketing world and being taught, like, got to go out and like do these things. And I was like, I don't think that's the way it's supposed to happen. And so I really dove into learning and loving the systems, but then actually looking at it from a outside perspective and saying, hey, what if this isn't actually how I'm designed? What if I need to come at it from a different angle? Will it still work, or will it work better, or will it flop? Like, so it all became an experiment for me. And so then I learned over time, like, what actually works and what doesn't. And then when I was introduced into human design, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. So it's been ever since then, it's been this core and heart of what it is that I help people with, because I have found so much value and importance of knowing not only who I am, but who my clients are. So I'm making sure that I coach them and guide them in the right direction so that they're, again, building this business that supports them and supports who they are and their energy. And it may take a little bit of time to make that mind switch of like, wait, I'm not supposed to do it this way. Oh, that's why I'm so frustrated. That's why I'm spinning my wheels. Nobody's ever showed it to me in this way. So we're going to show you some cool tricks to being able to look at things in your chart and being able to translate those into how you're designed to show up in your business. And yeah, so we can have a lot of fun with that.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm ready to dive in, and I want to just, I'm going to pull up my chart so that I have it here. But before we dive into the conversation, I just want to clarify that you immediately knew how introversion and extroversion shows up in the chart, right, in specific places, but that it's not really a topic that's addressed directly. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and just lead us into where we're going to go with this?
Yeah. So for those who are new to human design, because this is a new system to us, we're kind of all learning this in the process as well. So coming at it from human design, looking at it from introversion and extroversion, there's specific things in the chart. There is the black part. So I have Randi's chart up here. Okay. So this side over here is the black part, and this is the red part. So when I'm talking about this, that's the area that I'm talking about. So the black part is the conscious part of your design. So when you're looking at it and someone describes to you the channels, you're like, oh yeah, of course that's me. I get that. Like you have a conscious awareness of that for yourself. And then there's the red part over here, and this is part of your subconscious design, where you're not consciously aware of this is how you are. But if you ask the other people around you, they're like, of course that's who you are. Like, it's just so ingrained and in depth in you because it's so much of who you are that you don't have an awareness of this. So when you're looking at your chart, you may or may not have an awareness of this, but being introduced to it, if it's a subconscious part, you start to become aware of this is how you are. So this is really cool nuance of this. So there is one gate in particular, and it's the gate 40. And it is off the willpower center, which is this little guy right here. And this right here is the gate 40 that's connected to that bottom part of the triangle. So what the gate 40 is it's the gate of aloneness. And you'll see that Randi's here is white or open, which means that she has inconsistent energy attached to that. So when she talks about sometimes she needs to be introverted and sometimes she needs to be extroverted, it just depends on if it's activated in her chart by somebody else, or maybe there's the transits happening. Like, it's inconsistent, but she still has access to it. It's just not an everyday thing, or a consistent thing. I personally have that in my chart as activated or consistent. I have it as consistent energy. So what the gate of aloneness is because it's attached to the willpower center. The willpower center is originally from the heart chakra. The heart chakra in the Hindu chakra system, in 1781 is when we evolved into the 9-centered being, where the heart chakra split to the G center and the willpower center. So it's still associated with the heart itself. And so if you think about the willpower center as a heartbeat, so it beats on, and there's this tightness. So when like willpower is activated, it is strong because it's this muscle that's contracting, and then there's a relaxation part to it. And so that's when it's you need to rest. If you have this willpower center defined, you need to go with these pulses and of tightness and relaxation. So it's like go time and relax. I have the willpower to do this, and now I need to rest. So when we push through that willpower and consistently try to access that willpower, which from the center in and of itself, I think it's 60% of the population does not have it. I think that's the number with it. A majority of the population does not have access to consistent willpower. So if you're trying to push through it with willpower every single day and you don't have a consistent energy to it, it can cause health issues around your heart. So it's really fascinating. So then getting into this gate 40 of aloneness, there's a pulse of sometimes you need to be alone and sometimes you don't. Like when it's relaxed, like go back out into people world. and then, and that's kind of how I just describe it. Like I need to be alone, and then I need to go have social time. I need to be alone and have social time. And so my husband also has this in his chart. And so it's very fascinating to be in a relationship with somebody else who has this, because it's this need to be alone and the need to really like reorient yourself around, like, and be in your own aura and just be by yourself and read, do your work, do the things that you need to do alone. And for someone who doesn't have that as a definition in their chart, they may not understand the deep need to have alone time, which is interesting. My ex-husband did not have this defined. And so his idea of me having alone time was kind of weird and obscure. But also sometimes he's like, okay, so I get it. You need alone time. We'll find like an hour for you or something. I'm like, no, I need like a weekend. I need like a year. Like it just wasn't like, I needed like more alone time because I was so burnt out by the time our relationship ended, that because I didn't have that alone time. I didn't know about this. So if you have this gate 40 defined in your chart, it's really important for you to be alone while you're writing, be alone while you're doing your blog posts, be in your space so you can like really hone in and focus and enjoy being with yourself and following that impulse to be alone, and then go out and have people time. Be alone, go out and have people time. And but Randi, for you as someone who has that opened, it doesn't mean that you don't have access to it or you don't have this in your chart at all, because we all have all of the gates inside of our chart. It's just, is it defined or is it an inconsistent energy? Is it a consistent energy or inconsistent is what you're looking at with it for you. So you may be around somebody who has it and has the aloneness chart or the aloneness in their chart. And it needs to be, it may activate it for you where all of a sudden you're like, need to be alone.
Yeah.
With something. So when it comes to introvert and extrovert, that's just one little aspect of where it might show up in your chart. Do you have this deep internal need to be alone for a while to do your stuff, to do your thing.
Yeah.
Hang on just a second. Can you like, I'm gonna,
yep.
I'm on a call.
Okay.
So that's just one nuance of how the gate 40 will show up as potentially introverted or extroverted qualities in your particular chart. Do you actually need to have alone time, or are you okay with not having alone time pretty much all the time, you know?
Yeah. And I'm just curious, Nat, because Lee is also a manifesting generator. Does he have it defined or undefined?
He also has it defined.
He does.
And
so
we've also, we've had this joke in our relationship from the beginning of, what if we bought like a duplex and I lived on one side and he lived on the other side? Or maybe we have like tiny homes where he has one tiny home and I have another tiny home and we have another tiny home in the middle that, that meets. And like, so then we can like go off and do our own thing and then come back together in the evening or like for lunch and whatnot, and like have our little connecting social time and then go off and do our own thing again. I really think that's the gate 40 at work for both of us. And so it'd be interesting for you if, because you don't have it defined, but you are an introvert in a sense, how does that show up for you? Like, do you feel like if you're living with somebody, you need a space alone? You know, so there's this depth to this information when it comes to how you operate. And it's with this pulse and relaxation, the pulse and relaxation. Because I don't like to be alone all the time. I can be alone for a long time, but I also very much enjoy going to the grocery store and just chatting with the checkout lady or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I find that channel, now that I understand that channel on a deeper level, now I understand there are times in my business when I literally, if I feel the craving to be with people, I will launch a group program or launch some live event. And it really, I'm so glad that you mentioned that with the channel open or undefined, it's okay to just follow your instincts and to follow what feels good for you. I wanted to talk about this specifically because 2019 has been a very extroverted year for me, the first half of the year. And I started feeling it in April, and I'm 48 years old, and I still, because we're constantly growing, because we're ambitious, because we're running businesses, because we're always working on ourselves, there are times when you're like, okay, I feel off, but I'm not quite sure what it is, right? Because there's a new level that you're reaching and you're evolving. And I didn't realize it when I started feeling it back in April, but it was that aloneness time for me, because I had, a solid 4 months of massive extroverting. And then I can push myself when I need to, which I did through the end of May. And then I was like, we're done. Like, I need some introverting time. And in cases like that, and I welcome a conversation with you and tips from you on how to structure your business during this time of introverting. But one of the things that I want to talk about here, because this is exactly what I do with my business, when I need introverting time, I will create marketing that allows me to communicate on a consistent basis, which is content-based, so that my marketing is consistent, but I actually have lots of time away, which is one of the reasons why Natalie and I are doing this recorded webinar series, at least right now, because I'm in an introverted space and I need time alone. And having a business model and a structure that allows me to have that alone time, but still market consistently, this is where I want everyone watching this to pay attention. There are ways to honor who you are and still be a successful entrepreneur. But you've got to understand yourself, you've got to understand your true nature, and then you've got to have a business model that supports that. So Natalie, what else do you want to tag on to that?
So there's really interesting aspect to what you just said. So when you're working and really giving it your all, and then you go into introverted, you need rest time mode, can look at is it really introverted energy, or is it the need to rest so you don't burn yourself out?
Oh, that's interesting. I think it's introversion because you know what? I had a couple of days last week where I couldn't even deal with the public. I was like, I'm not leaving my house today.
No people today.
Right. No people. So that's a very great clarification. I think it's a little bit of both always. But right now it's definitely, I need time away from people.
Because
I ordered in food. I was like, no, we're not dealing with the public today.
So there is an introverted part, but there's this other aspect that I really think is important to dive into at this moment with, because I'm going to show your chart again. See all these white centers in Randi's chart? And I have a lot of openness in my chart too, but this gives it openness. Wherever we are open is where we can be subject to being conditioned by the outside world. And there's a deconditioning process. The more you start to live in who you are, your true nature in your design, the more that these open areas, you can become aware of what it is, what it means to be open, and decondition from that process, which takes time to do this. So if you're running yourself ragged from these centers because there's an off balance within it, it can cause you to burn out. And if you're not listening to that, like if you're like keeping pushing and keeping going, you're going to burn yourself out, and then you won't have any energy to do your business. So what happens in the universe is as you push that limit and you come back and rest, if you were to push yourself over the limit and over into burnout, the universe kind of starts shutting stuff down for you because it knows that you can't handle any more stuff. So it's not going to send any more stuff your way. And so you don't want to operate from this burnout mode, which a lot of people are spinning their wheels because stuff's not working. They're running themselves ragged when they're actually in burnout mode, and the universe is trying to do them a tremendous, huge favor of not sending any more work their way because they need to be in rest mode. So then we can look at, is you actually taking a break and feeling that you need introverted time? Society calls it introversion, but is it really needed is there really a rest period that you need to rest and rejuvenate yourself so that you can come back out into the world as your best self in being able to shine in that way, and the universe keeps bringing in that abundance?
That is a great way to look at it. And I've never thought of it that way, but you are absolutely right. Looking at my chart, I do have a lot of open centers. I have a very strong sort of like root sacral, like I can feel like my sacral root area, like I've got that firm anchor. But there are times just in relationships or in business where I'm like, okay, too much information. I've got to go in and go back to that anchor. So I can see where that happens for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also, you have your head and your ajna open. So that leads to, like, if you think about, you have an open mind. What that really is that because of the openness, there may be one issue that's happening, or one way that you're trying to get to your solution for something. And there's information coming from all these different ways, and you can think about it in all these different ways. And there's like a million different possibilities with this. It can really send you into information overload because you're like, wait a second, there's too much. And so then it's good to look at, am I thinking about something that doesn't actually matter? And so getting away from all that external stimulation and being able to go back into the body and what is the truth of what wants to come out. Where is the energy actually going? And the mind in and of itself, we're not designed to make decisions from the mind. And so if you're spinning your wheels up here and just observing in all of this openness and all the possibilities, it can get really overwhelming, and you have the need to shut it down and go back internal and get realigned and recentered with who you are.
And I'm just curious, have you found that to be common among clients of yours who have an open or many open centers, that they need that time to come back to whatever?
Yeah, because the openness is where the conditioning from society can come into play. That's where, it is. And especially if you have people who are close to you, like for example, my husband Lee has all of his centers defined except for the G center. And then I have 4 centers defined, just like you do, Randi, and then 5 centers open in the chart. So there's a lot of openness within that. And I've had to really take a hard look at, wait a second, because I don't have a defined sacral, am I really way overextending myself and becoming a super slave, which is a very typical thing that happens with projectors, and then they get burnout and have a lot of health issues and can't function anymore. I don't want to get to that point. I've kind of been there, and I don't want it to be debilitating where I can't really function for a couple years. That's not where I want to be. So I'm bringing in this awareness of, wait a second, where has society tried to condition me to work and hustle and just do so much work, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, where I'm not designed that way. It's a mind trip to really get into, wait a second, that, and it's also, it's a mind trip, but it's also this realization of, oh, this is what I've been searching for. And I now have permission to step more into who I am in my design. So a lot of that is, I stepped into being a coach. I was doing a virtual assistant work for a long time. I understand, I did corporate work, I did virtual assistant work, and I did a lot of admin stuff where I was working many, many, many hours a day. And I will tell you, corporate work compared to online virtual assistant work is way easier to do the corporate work. And I was killing myself as a virtual assistant. And because when you show up, the work is actually, it's a different focus. When you're in corporate, if you think about, you have this 8-hour span that you're normally at your job. Well, if you think about when you're actually in major production and productivity time, it might be up to 4 hours of that 8-hour time. But as a virtual assistant, if I'm billing hourly, or when I was billing hourly for that, it was 8 hours of full-on productive time. There was not this chatty time with my office mates and going to lunch and maybe being a little late. There's not this check an email time. That wasn't built into it. And so this was this shift of coming from a traditional corporate world into the online space and realizing how quickly I could way overextend myself and get burnout. And so as a projector, because I have that open sacral center, it's where, in the sacral center itself is the strongest motor out of the entire human design system. And Randi, because you have it defined, you have this innate ability, you just have consistent access to it. Whereas if I try to have consistent access and show up in a consistent way in that sense, I will burn myself out. But the conditioning in my mind and in my body is I got to do all the things when I'm actually not designed that way. So it was a total mind trip to get out of the hustle always got to be doing work, busy work. It doesn't matter. Like, you always got to be working, into what if you just waited for the invitation? I was like, whoa, what if I did?
Yeah. And it's a completely different way of working. And I want to dive into that for just a few minutes, because this is a hugely important topic. There are two aspects. Number one, hustle. I believe that focused effort, right? Concentrated effort in little bursts can actually get you further in your online business than incessant hustle. And Natalie and I have both been entrepreneurs for decades, and we understand that trap. And we've both been in places in our business where we have gotten to burn out, either periods of our life, right, where it was happening personally, then affected our business, or vice versa. And both of us want you to understand, hustle is not the way. Mm-hmm. And burnout can take years to recover from. We really don't pay attention to what our body is saying to us. So for anyone out there who feels like they're working too hard in their business, please pay attention to how you're designed to work. Reach out to Natalie, work with her, get a human design consult, work with me, and I'll purchase your consult for you. But it's super important for you to understand that it doesn't have to be that way. The second piece that I want to talk about in there is really, I know for me, I got caught up in doing work that was none of my business in my business. I mean, ultimately, if it is not getting people on your list, if it is not getting them on sales calls, if it is not getting them paid in full, it's none of your business. Those are the focusing, right? Grow your community, service your community, convert those subscribers into paying clients. That is your job. Everything else, really, it's a waste of time, and it doesn't even matter in the long term. And it will send you on this just ridiculous mouse chase that never ends. So both of us have been there, and I know I'm speaking for both of us. Don't let yourself get there. Yeah. There was something else that you mentioned, and I forgot what I was going to talk about, but you mentioned so many golden nuggets just in that one little section there. I mean, it's super important. And I also want to say that when you are really working in alignment with your truth and how you're designed to work, there is a lot more effort that can go into concentrated effort that can create compounded results. And after my burnout stint in 2017, you guys know the story, right? In 2017, I was like, I literally couldn't force myself one more day. I wrapped up my private clients. I had like 2.5 weeks left of 2 private clients. I literally stopped selling. I stopped marketing. I stopped working on my business. I serviced those 2 clients for the last 2.5 weeks, and then I walked away for 16 months. And those 16 months flew by. But when I came back to randipierce.com in January of 2019, I was determined to work in effective ways. And I was determined to build a business model that honored how I was designed to work, what I wanted for my life, what I needed, and where I wanted to take my business. And that's why we're here helping you. We want you to know that if something in your business feels off, it feels off for a reason, right?
Right. Yep. And one of the really cool things is always going back to, in your human design, your strategy and authority. So there's 5 different types. There's the manifestor, the generator, the manifesting generator, projectors, and reflectors. All 5 of these types have a different kind of strategy. Even the manifesting generators, it's a little bit different because it's this hybrid. And so when you're following your energetic strategy, and then you have your authority, and there's 9, hold on, I got it written down. I think there's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 8 different strategies that you can have in your body of with your combination, here's the cool thing. Before the human design system came into existence in 1780, well, in 1781 is when we split. And then it was 1987, I believe, that the human design system was introduced into humanity and was channeled in. And throughout this, we've been trying to figure out and learn, and without knowledge up until this point, that we evolved into a 9-centered being, and we operate differently from who we were as a 7-centered being. 7-centered beings were all about strategy and, like taking over the world in different ways. But there's a hierarchy. So there's kings and queens and CEOs and like people who are in this hierarchy aspect. But when we evolved into the 9-centered being, we got this inner authority into play. There's 8 different types that we get to play with. And it's also when the projector was entered into the energy field and in humanity. And when all of this happened, there's this nuance where the manifestors were the kings and queens and the hierarchy of this. And what this has done is we're in this transition of the changing of the guard from the manifestors being the kings and queens to the projectors coming in and guiding the energy and making sure that people are using their energy correctly. Because we now have these inner authorities, we get to tap into, we don't need the outer authorities telling us what to do, because we have this really cool connection with our inner authority and what's right for us. And the projectors are here to make sure that it's effectively being put into place and that you are managing your authority and your design and your strategy correctly. And so even with the manifestors all have inner authority, but they're here to channel in this really cool information and ideas and energy and push it forward. And we talked about this in the last section, where then the generators can come in and respond of, yes, this is right for me, or no, it's not. And so there's an informing that needs to happen. And so as you're doing that as entrepreneurs, we get to do that in our business. The manifestors are here to inform people of how they're going to help them. And as a manifesting generator, Randi, you get the sacral response, and then you get to inform people that this is correct, and we're going to be doing this. And so
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I just want to throw in here, one of the things that human design has really helped me understand. I mean, one of the first, like personality profiles I took was a Myers-Briggs, which, the never dying Myers-Briggs. I think it oversimplifies, but it gives you a good idea, right, of some core aspects of your truth. But I remember shortly after high school, I took this Strengths Finder course. And one of my top values was, or whatever archetypes was advisor. And people have always asked me questions. People have always asked me for feedback. People have always come to me with some quandary, right? Whether it's, I don't know which boy to choose, right? I don't know which guy to make my boyfriend and which one to dump, or whether it's about business. And I find it very interesting because the human design system just confirmed that, right?
Yes.
And, I really love so much of what I've learned so far about it. And I'd love, maybe next class, we do strategy and maybe emotional authority. Or is that too big for one class?
No, I probably could go through, I could try to go through all of them, but we could definitely cover all the strategies and emotional authority.
Okay.
With that. Yeah.
Because that really helps people understand, how do you work best, right? Where is your energy most accessible and sustainable? And then what is that thing inside of you that helps you understand where's your authority?
Mm-hmm.
How does it communicate with you to tell you which way to go or which option to choose or how to market or, whatever it may be, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fun once you start getting in and experimenting and seeing, hey, how am I actually designed to work? And the fun thing, 70% of the population are generators and manifesting generators. So the chances of majority of people watching this are going to be generators and manifesting generators. So you get to respond to, is this accurate for you? Is this something you want to play with going forward in your business? And you can get this yes or no from your gut space of, yeah, like this feels really good, or no, it's not for me right now. And that's part of the inner authority that you get to tap into in, is this correct for you right now or not? And that's part of the inner authority that I was talking about, of you don't need somebody else as a hierarchy for them to come in and say, you need to learn this information. You get to now be in this vehicle, in this body, and decide if it's right for you or not. So that's one of the amazing, cool things. And then what human design teaches us is how to listen and tap into that inner authority, which is fascinating and phenomenal to start stepping into your own power to move you forward in the direction that your soul wants you to go into. So it's that calling, that desire of knowing that you're here for a reason. What is it? But what if it were to unfold for you when you know what you're looking for?
Ooh, I just got goosebumps. I love all of that conversation. And ultimately, I think that's all why we became entrepreneurs. There was something driving us on some level, whether it was freedom or self-sufficiency or, abundance or creative expression or contribution or service to others. There is something that drove us deeply, and if human design can help us understand what that is, I'm all for it.
Me too.
Okay.
Hands down.
Awesome. So guys, here's the deal. Natalie and I are going to do more of these videos, so keep watching. We're also going to it's likely, we're going to give you an opportunity to, number one, either get your questions answered on a recorded webinar, or maybe we'll do a live one. We'll see how it goes. It's summer. Natalie has her son, and it's summertime, summer vacation for her. I'm sort of in an introverted, I need to be alone period. So we'll see how it goes. We'll get you the information regardless. But if you happen to follow us on Facebook, and with this video, I'm actually going to post our Facebook links so that people can find us on Facebook. But you know the deal. Here's the deal. I worked with Natalie, which is one of the reasons why I brought her into this series. It was impactful enough for me that I wanted to get her in front of you so that you have access to her. And where you see this video, you'll see two links. Number one, a link to work with Natalie. I recommend just book a call with her. You can have a quick chat to see if it's something that you're interested in, or if you already know that you want to work with her, just book a consult or book the business coaching, which she'll help you with the human design stuff in the business coaching. Or you can work with me as a top level one-to-one client, and I will pay Natalie for you to have that service done. But at the end of the day, we're here to help you understand more about your true nature and how human design can help you understand who is it that you are, how do you work best, what are the things that you need, do you need alone time like I do, do you need to express your message in some specific way, which we can also talk about in another class. But ultimately, we just want to help you narrow down and dial in. Who are you? How do you work best? And how can you succeed with the least amount of effort in the most graceful way? Right?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's really your energetic blueprint. And to, we always wanted to have that guidebook of like, how the heck do you do life? This became the guidebook. There's a lot of information around it, but when it's very specific to you, it's very enlightening to know that, oh, this is actually how you work and how you operate, and you can use this in your life and in your business, in your relationships, and it can just enhance and enrich everything that you do because you start operating correctly as yourself.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, until next time, thank you so much for watching this video. If you find this wherever I posted this, please comment below. Tell us your human design type. We're always curious. We want to know. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us and type in your question. We will answer it on a future webinar, or you can join us live. Sending you so much love. See you guys next time.